أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا باب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين مؤمنين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So last week we finished the section on incomes that are liable for Khums, and one of the feedback that I received was that it was a bit too much content and some people found it confusing. So if you have other feedback, please do share, and inshallah what I'm trying to do now is we'll have more sessions, but in each session I'll try and give less technical content and more examples so it's easier to understand. Although last week was the appreciation itself is a more difficult part of Khums, but from here on most of the ahkam that will come are very simple to understand. There's only 2 or 3 discussions that are a bit more complex, like when it comes to loans or when you have to pay a quarter instead of a fifth in Khums. Other than these 2, most of the things that are remaining are fairly straightforward. So hopefully it shouldn't be difficult. Secondly, there was questions from both ladies and gents about this whole thing about, okay, if you receive through bank transfer, then there's no khums on it until you finally withdraw it, and then 1 year from that or until your khums date. So not last week, but the week before, I attempted to give you the reasoning behind why Ayat al-Sistani has this view. It was a technical discussion. But putting that on one side, 90% of the Marajis say, okay, there is no difference between cash and bank transfer, it's all the same. It's only Ayat al-Sistani and Ayat al-Khui who had this unique view about bank transfer, and so that's why you see this difference with them, but for everyone else, they say it doesn't make a difference. Now the point is that some people are saying, it doesn't sit well with us, it doesn't feel well. Like somebody gifts me 1 million shillings through bank transfer, you're saying, okay, there's no khums on it as long as it's in my bank account and I'm not withdrawn it. So the answer is that yes, technically khums is not wajib on that 1 million, but it's not haram to pay khums on it. So if you feel that no, how can I not give khums? Okay, if you want to give, bismillah, you're welcome to pay the khums if you want. But the point was that it's not wajib until you finally withdraw that gift, and then once you withdraw it, until your khums date, if you're a working person, you use it, or if you're not a working person, then a whole year. But yes, like some people said, I'm still not comfortable with that. It's like, okay, fine, it's not haram to pay khums on it. You want to pay, you can still pay that khums amount. Now today, we are starting with the discussion on expenses. So if you remember, when we started, I said that on your khums date, what happens is that you take your annual income and you remove your annual expenses, whatever throughout the year you had your expenses, and then what's remaining or the savings you pay khums on. So with regards to expenses, there is a principle that I explained to you how the Maraji come up with this principle. You won't find this principle in the books of Ahkam, but this is what's happening behind the scenes when you see the rulings. If you understand this principle, then all the rulings that will follow will easily make sense. And the principle is this. So the Maraji, they say, look, when you go to the verse of Khums, or you go to the narrations, some narrations of Khums, there is no mention over there that Khums is wajib after you've spent on your expenses. So the verse, for example, وَعَلَّمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمْسَهُ. Whatever you gain, there is khums on it. It doesn't say whatever you gain after you spend on your expenses for the year and then khums is wajib. No, the verse says as soon as you gain, khums is wajib. Even the narrations I brought in the first session, most of them say al-khumsu fi kulli ma afad an-nas. Whatever people gain, there is khums on it. Those narrations don't say after you spend on your expenses, then whatever is remaining, khums is wajib on that. So on one side, they say, okay, look, we have these narrations and verses. They say khums is immediate as soon as you gain. But then you have other narrations where the imams say generally that, okay, you can spend on your expenses for you and your family for the year, and then you pay khums. So putting all this together, basically what you can conclude is what happens is, what the imams are saying is that as soon as you gain something, gift, income, whatever, as soon as you gain something, technically khums is wajib right there and then. But what the imams come and do, and they say, you know what, out of our kindness, we are telling you, okay, you know what, khums is wajib now, but that's okay. Out of our kindness, we are giving you a year's time. Go spend this money in all halal ways that you want. You want to spend on you, your family, hajj, ziyarat, everything. The imams are saying, go and spend like the way you want, halal. Then at the end of the year, if there's anything remaining, then you give us a khums from that. So this is how they put these two together. That this is like the imams are being kind to us and saying, okay, we're giving you permission, even though technically khums is wajib right now. You have a year, go and spend on your halal expenses, and then whatever remains, if there's anything remaining, then you pay the khums on that. So if this principle is there in your mind, you'll see many of these rulings that I'll mention right now, they automatically follow from that. Also, this, if you understand this, then it removes a kind of arrogance that you might have. Some people might say, like, I'm doing an ihsan, or I'm doing a good thing by, for example, giving my khums to the imam. No, actually, the imam is being kind to you by saying, okay, you know what, I'm giving you a year. Go and spend. If anything remains, then okay, I'll take khums from that. Although technically, the imam is saying, no, actually, in principle, khums was wajib as soon as you got the thing. Every income you get, khums was wajib then. So technically, the imams are the ones who are being kind to us and saying, okay, go use it for a year. So if that principle is understood, several rulings follow. Number one, if a person spends their wealth in an unlawful manner, they must pay khums of that amount immediately. Why? Because the imam said, okay, I'm allowing you to go spend this money. Obviously, the imam is not saying go spend it in haram. So you are given permission to use this money for halal. You went and spent it in something haram. So in that case, you didn't use the money where the imam told you. And so therefore, you have to pay khums on that amount that you already spent on haram. So you've already spent that money is gone, but because you didn't spend it in the right place, so you have to pay khums of that amount. One, and two, you have to pay khums immediately. Not that I wait until my khums date, and then, for example, I pay khums. No, immediately. As soon as you spend on any haram, so for example, I don't know, somebody wants to like go to a music concert, for example. The guna is on one side, but as soon as now he's paid for the ticket is, for example, I don't know, 2,000 shillings. So he'll pay the ticket person the 2,000, and he'll have to pay khums of that 2,000 as well. Because if he didn't spend it on haram, he would have kept that money for himself, and then he would have used it on halal. But because he didn't use it in halal, used it in haram, so pay khums on it immediately. And I'll bring another example right now. So that's number one. If you spend on haram, you pay khums immediately. Secondly, is that if a person spends his wealth in a manner that is beyond his social status, they must pay khums on the extra amount immediately. So this one is actually just an instance of the first one. Why? Because Islam says, look, you are living in society, whether you like it or not, you have a social status in society. And this social status is due to different things. Your family background, people look at you differently, your occupation, your job, how much money you're earning, all these different factors, they build a social status for you in the eyes of people. And when you have a social status in the eyes of people, if you spend more than what your social status dictates, you are putting yourself in a position for people to talk bad about you. And that's not allowed. It's wajib upon you to protect your reputation. So what this point says is that, look, spend however much you want. You want to buy a car, house, whatever your legal expenses are, spend as much as you want, but it should be within the limits of your social status, what is normally accepted for somebody of your standing. Now, I don't want to like emphasize too much on this, because last time I was speaking to someone and I told them about this, and they became very waswas, and they started calling me like, okay, can I go to Art Cafe? Is that in my social expense? Can I go to Java? Is that? Majority of the times we spend based on our social status. It's automatically, because usually your social status is in line with how much you're earning. So most of the times we automatically spend according to our social status. There's only like very few areas where we go above and beyond, we become extravagant. So for example, let's say I want to buy a house. So somebody of my standing, for example, it would be normal to buy, let's say, a house of like 2, 3, or even 4 bedrooms. But now let's say I go and I really want a big house. I'm going to buy a 7-bedroom house. I'm not stealing money. I have not done anything haram. Let's say even I've saved up for years, or I'm borrowing. I've not done anything haram. But now I'm buying a 7-bedroom house, where for sure that's beyond my social status. And so in that case, the amount that I've spent extra, so say normal person like in my situation, people would say, yeah, 4-bedroom house, people would be accepting. Between a 4-bedroom house and a 7-bedroom house, that difference that I've paid extra, I would have to pay khums on that. Now, there is no clear criterion to say how exactly do I know that, okay, have I gone above my social status or not? And the answer that usually when you ask the fuqaha, they'll say, okay, it depends on society. Society decides what is more or what is within your social status. But one of my teachers, he gave a nice example. I like to use it. He says, you know, some of those like cartoons they would have where, like Tom and Jerry, where if like the character is surprised, like their eyes come out. So basically that's the criterion over here. If you spend in a way that when people look at you, their eyes come out like, hey, how did this guy do this? But if something like that happens, where you spend and you know people will turn around and be like, how did this guy get such a car? So for example, I'm a student, I say I'm going to save up, I want to buy a Range Rover. And I know, okay, if I walk in with a Range Rover, everyone's going to talk. Like, hey, this guy studies in Qum, how can you afford a Range Rover? As soon as you know that, okay, people are going to talk, I'm going to become the talk of the town, that means you've spent above your social status. So the point is that, yes, you're allowed to spend in the year for your halal expenses with the criteria that it should be within your social status. And like I said, 90% of the time we spend based on our social status. There's only a few areas, like let's say weddings, for example, where now, for example, somebody of my social status can afford a reception with like, let's say 4 dishes. But now because of like this family pressure, culture, whatever, I'm going to like now break the bank and I'm going to put like 10 dishes. Where everyone walks in and they're like, oh, wow, this guy can afford 10 dishes. Yeah, we didn't expect this. So those are areas where you would say people go above and beyond their social status. But generally speaking, we all tend to spend with our social status. So let me give an example of these two together. So for example, this Mr. Alif, whose Khums date is on 1st January, received his monthly salary of $1,000 on 31st January. So the next day, he spent $10 getting a clean shave, and $100 to purchase a ticket to the latest Taylor Swift concert. This example was for some youths. If I knew like all the people are here, I would have put, I don't know, Atif Aslam or someone, I don't know. So some musician paid a ticket to their concert. On the same day, he also hosted a dinner party at home for some friends. In order to impress them, he bought golden steaks for $500 as opposed to the normal $100 steaks that people of his status would usually purchase. So what is his Khums duty? So here is an example. Basically, I made this example to show these two rulings in application. So what he would do, so he spent first of all $10 on a clean shave. He spent on haram, so immediately you pay Khums on that. Then he spent $100 for this concert. That's also haram, so pay Khums on that. Then he went above and beyond his status. He wanted to have a dinner of golden steaks, so he paid $500 for that. Whereas somebody of his status, for example, let's say middle class person, a normal dinner would be like $100. So the difference he would have to pay Khums on. So between 500 to 100 is 400. So 20% of each of these, 20% of $10, $100, and $400 is $102. That's Khums he would immediately pay without waiting for his Khums date. So important point over here is that he doesn't have to wait until his Khums date. Like these, because they're all haram expenditures, as soon as he's spent, he has to pay Khums on it. Now, the interesting part over here is that there's a discussion that, okay, what about if I'm spending on something, not even halal, something mustahab, like charity, for example, but it's above and beyond my social status. So, say for example, I don't know, there's a Jamaat says, okay, we're building a hospital for poor people. And now somebody of my social status, yeah, I can give a donation. Let's say, for example, it's expected I give, let's say, give or take, for example, between like 20,000 to 100,000, okay, it's normal range. But I say, you know what, oh, I have so much money in my bank account, I really want to do a good deed, I'm going to give 2 million shillings. I'm not stealing the money, I'm not taking a loan, I saved it, yeah? I want to do it's a good deed, it's charity, but I'm going beyond my social status. So some Maraji, like for example, Ayatollah Khui said that, okay, because it's a Mustab act, doesn't matter. Whether you go above your status, it's fine. But Ayatollah Sistani says, no, even in charity and good acts, if you go above and beyond your status, that difference, you still have to pay Khums on it. So that's clear. The next thing that follows from that same principle is that if a person acquires a gain and is certain that they will not use it until the end of their Khums year, they must pay Khums on it immediately. Remember, the Imams were saying, as soon as you get it, Khums is wajib upon it, as soon as you get it. But so the Imam saying, okay, I'm giving you until a year, go use it wherever you want. So this person is now saying, I got this, and I'm 100% sure that I don't need this until my Khums date, I'm not going to use it. So I'm just going to keep it on the side. I have enough money, for example, for all my expenses. I am 100% sure that I will not use this. So here as well, if you're 100% sure that you're not going to use this until your Khums date, then Ayat al-Sistani says, ihtiyat wajib, you pay khums on it immediately. So ihtiyat wajib, if somebody like wants to, like, they can refer to somebody else, but the point is that if you're 100% sure, if somebody is not 100% sure, they're saying, yeah, okay, I received this money right now, but I'm thinking, until my khums date, I have like 6 months, maybe something will come up. If a hospital bill comes up, I don't have anything else to pay with, something would come up. So now I'm not 100% sure I'll not use it. I still have a possibility. So okay, fine, you don't pay khums on this right now. If you don't use it until your khums date, then you pay on your khums date. But if you're like very rich, for example, you have a big bank account, you know that whatever happens, I'm sorted. I don't need to touch this money until my khums date, then you pay khums on it immediately. The next one is if a person purchases an item assuming it to be a need, meaning a legitimate expense, and before the end of the year they realize that it is no longer needed, they must pay khums on it immediately. So again, the principle was what? Imam said, okay, you have this money, go spend it in the year on your expenses, and then whatever remains, you pay khums on the remaining. This ruling is saying that, look, okay, you went and you spent it on something. So say, for example, I went and I bought a new iPhone, for example. Now, let's say I used it for a few days, and I came home and somebody gifted me another iPhone, for example. And I was like, okay, this gift one, for example, it's the latest iPhone. I was like, okay, so this one, I don't need it. I'll just use this one. So the point over here is that I spent on this iPhone thinking it was a need, but then before the end of the year, I realized, actually, no, I don't need it. For example, I have another one that I got as a gift. So here, the ruling is that, okay, now, because this is no longer a need of yours, you must pay khums on it immediately. But here, there is like now a slight discussion. So this whole idea is called istighna, or becoming needless of something. Where basically, I had something, I used it, and now I say, okay, I don't need it. So some, for example, Maraja like Ayat al-Khui said, doesn't matter, okay, no khums on it. You used it once, finished. No khums on it at all. But Ayat al-Sistani says, there's a difference over here. If it's within that first year that you got the thing, within the first year, if this happens, you got something, and then you realize, I don't need it. If it's within the first year, then it says no. Okay, if it's within the first year, as soon as you say, okay, I don't need this anymore, then khums becomes wajib upon it. But if it was after the first year, so say, for example, the same iPhone, I used it for 1 year, for example, then the next year, I got a new iPhone as a gift, and I said, okay, I don't need this one. Okay, he says, if it's after the first year, then, okay, there is no khums on it. But if within the first year, you say, I don't need it anymore, and you're sure I don't need it at all, then you pay khums on it. Typical examples that would come up is where, let's say, for example, ladies, let's say, spend a big amount on their wedding dress. So she bought it for the wedding, she wore it on the wedding night, for example, and then after that, she looked at the dress and she's like, oh, this dress is like too heavy, I'm never going to wear it again. So this means that I'm never going to wear it again. It's like, I don't need it at all. If there's a lady like that. So some ladies, they say, no, if there's khushali, I don't mind wearing it. But in some cultures, they're like, oh, it's too heavy, I'm never going to wear it again. So here is where this ruling would come into play. It's like, okay, you spent it, you thought it was an expense. Within the first year, you said, I don't need it anymore. Okay, so Ayat al-Sistani says, then, because it's within the first year, you pay khums on it. And I'll give another example of this. All of this, I'll bring some more applications so that they can sit in well. The next one is that wealth that is not actually spent on one's legitimate expenses for the year, but rather is saved for future expenses, is not exempt from khums. So again, the principle was what? The Imam said, you have this money, we are giving you a year, go and spend it whatever you want, and then pay on the remaining. You are given a year to use it. So here the question is that, okay, I have this money, I am saving it for future expenses, for future years. So anything you save for future years, khums is wajib upon it. Oh, I'm saving for my university, I'm saving for school, I'm saving for a house. Doesn't matter. If it's for your future year, meaning after your khums date, for those next coming years, then you have to pay khums on this on your khums date. There's only 2 exceptions for this future expenses, which will come later. But the general principle is that, look, remember, the Imam said, this money you're allowed to use it this year for your expenses. He didn't say forever or for future years. No. The original ruling was what? The Imam said, we're giving you a year, go and use this money for all your expenses are. So future expenses, meaning things that I'm saving for the future after my khums date, No, you have to pay khums on that. So another application of these put together is this is, for example, okay, Mrs. Alif, whose khums date is on 1st January, she bought her wedding dress on 1st December for $1,500. Then her marriage took place on 15th December. As part of her wedding gifts, she received a sum of $10,000, you know, the gifts that they get. So she decided to put the money into a savings account in order to save for a new car that she intends to buy next year, without negating the possibility that she might dip into these savings for other purposes. So the point over here is that, okay, one is she spent on her dress, two is these gifts that she got, she says, okay, it's for future expenses, next year I want to buy a car, but she says, maybe before my khums date, I might use this money. Something might come up, I might have to use it. I'm not negating that possibility. So I'm not saying for sure that I don't need this money until my khums date. So no, I'm keeping it. Maybe if something comes up, I'll use it. But my plan is I want to buy a car next year. Then after the wedding ceremony, she realized that she would never wear her dress again and would only keep it for sentimental reasons. So what are her khums duties? So here, based on what I said previously, for the dress, as soon as she says, okay, I don't need it anymore, because it's in the first year, she will pay khums on the market value of her dress immediately. So let's say, for example, okay, now it's worn. So she says, okay, this dress, how much is it? What's the value now? So obviously it's not going to be the same as brand new. Whatever the value is, as soon as she said, okay, I'm not going to wear it again, I don't need it, she pay khums on it. If she would have said, no, I'll wear it once or twice, and then the next year, if she would have said, okay, I don't need it, then there would be no khums on it. But because it's in the first year, so she pays khums on the market value of her dress immediately. And that $10,000 that she got as a gift in her wedding, which she said, I'll keep it for my car that I want to buy next year, because she said that there's a chance I might use it this year. So we say, okay, there's a chance, okay, you keep it until your khums date. If you didn't use it, then on the khums date, she pays on this gift of $10,000. Because she said that maybe I'll use it in this time period. If she said, no, for sure, this 10,000 I'm not going to touch, I don't need it, then she would have to pay khums immediately. The sixth application of the same principle is if a person acquires a gain or an income but does not remain alive until the end of his khums year, it is obligatory upon the heir of the deceased to pay the khums from his estate immediately. So again, remember the Imam said, you got this money, we're giving you until a year, go and spend it however much you want, whatever remains, then you pay khums on it. So here what's happened is that he didn't live until the end of the year. In the middle of the year, this person passed away, for example. So now, you can understand it this way. As soon as he passes away, that date becomes his khums date. So the heirs have to say, okay, remember he had this money, it's left with him, he didn't spend it on his expenses. So before his estate is distributed, they would have to pay the khums of that money that he left behind, which if he was alive, he had time until the end of the year, until his khums date. Because he died in the middle of the year, as soon as he died, technically, now you say, okay, his khums date is as soon as the date he died, and his inheritors would have to pay on that. So now because I've reached this point about somebody who dies and how the people who are behind, the inheritors, they have to pay his khums. So I'm taking a detour over here and looking at a few scenarios that come out when a person dies and relating to these khums duties. So in the first session I mentioned that there's a whole section on shakiyat of khums. So that will come at the end. But now I'm just bringing over here specifically those questions that come in people's mind when, okay, you're saying this, let's say my dad, for example, passed away. You're saying, okay, whatever he had left behind, since his last khums date until today, whatever anything new he gained, you're saying I have to pay khums. So now a few questions that people have, like, okay, what is khums date? How much did he pay? How much is left behind? I don't know all this. So here are doubts about the wealth of the deceased. If the deceased left behind wealth that we are certain was liable for khums, but we doubt whether he had removed the khums or not. So actually, first of all, I'll say this, that all these things that I'm going to mention about paying the khums on behalf of the marhum, all of them, it only applies if the marhum was somebody who, when he was alive, he was somebody who would pay khums. If he's somebody who say, I don't pay khums, I don't believe in khums, whatever, then there's no duty on anyone else. Then doesn't matter. You distribute his wealth and you enjoy the wealth. So this is specifically for somebody who, when he was alive, he was actually paying khums. So, okay, he left behind some wealth. The point is over here. This item that he has left behind, we are sure that at one point, khums was wajib upon it. Meaning we know that, okay, 1 year had passed on it. For example, like let's say, we went home after he passed away, we opened his cupboard to distribute the things, and we saw, let's say, for example, some brand new shirts. We're like, oh yeah, this shirt, I remember when he went like last year for ziyarat, for example, he bought this. So like, I know it's lasted more than a year, he didn't touch it. The point is, this item, this gift, this money, whatever, if we are sure that khums was wajib, it had become wajib, but now the doubt is, I don't know, did he pay khums on it or not? If that is the case, that we know for sure khums was wajib, but we are doubting whether this person before he died paid the khums or not, then the heirs must remove the khums from his wealth. If they give it a possibility that, oh, maybe he forgot, I don't know, did he pay, did he not pay, maybe he forgot, bas, that means you pay khums on it. You know that khums was wajib on this item, but you don't know, did he pay or not pay, then the heirs have to remove khums from his estate, not from their own pocket, so from whatever he left behind. So that's number one. Number two is, if the deceased had khums as a debt, mafid dhimma. So the way generally we look at khums is, okay, this money is left over, for example, in the year, and this is how much is there, so I have to pay khums on it. Usually we point at things, we say, okay, here, khums was wajib on this gift, this money that's in my bank account, or this money that's in my pocket, for example. These are things you can point to. But sometimes the khums that's wajib, that item is not there. So say, for example, somebody saved up until the end of the year, let's say 10,000, yeah, khums was wajib, he didn't pay khums on it, okay? He didn't pay khums on it, and after that, he spent that 10,000. So now that 10,000 is gone, but technically he had to pay the khums of 2,000. So here, this 2,000, you can't point at it, like he's already spent it. So here, you would say in fiqh, it's a debt. He owes 2,000. You can't point at the money that's there. You say, okay, where's this 2,000? He already spent it, but he owes khums as a debt. So here is the second case is that if we know that, okay, this marhum has khums as a debt, okay, and now we doubt, okay, did he fulfill that debt or no? Then again also, it's obligatory on the heirs to remove the khums from his estate. Again, unless he was somebody who never paid khums, then we already said, if he never used to pay khums, enjoy, you don't have to pay anything. But if he was somebody who used to pay, and I know he had this debt as a khums, I don't know, did he pay his debt off or not? Pay the khums. The third one, which is probably the most relevant, is if the deceased left behind wealth about which we doubt whether it was liable for khums or not. For example, it might have been received as an inheritance or dowry, then not obligatory to pay khums on it. So the first case was, I know khums was wajib on this item, I don't know if he paid or not. This case is that, no, I'm seeing, for example, his bank account, okay, there's money is left, his clothes, for example, gifts. I don't know whether khums was ever applicable over here. For example, either he might have bought these items with mukhammas wealth, or he received as inheritance or not. Like I don't know, like, okay, there's fresh money over here, for example, in his drawer. So here, I don't even know if khums was ever wajib in the first place on this money or not. So here, it's like, okay, fine. Here, khums is not wajib upon you. You can distribute the wealth the way the Sharia has decided. The difference between the first one and this one was, the first one was, I know this item khums was wajib, I don't know if he paid or not. In this one, aslan, I don't even know whether khums was wajib upon this or not. The fourth one is, if the deceased left behind wealth about which we doubt whether he used it for his needs or not. So for example, he's left some clothes behind. Did he wear them? Did he use them? I don't know. Okay, so here is a case where he left behind the wealth, but we doubt whether he used it for his needs or not. In this case, it is obligatory upon the heirs to pay khums on it. So for example, I see some clothes in his cupboard, and I know, for example, that, or I don't know, okay, did he ever wear this or not? I'm not sure. Did he use this? Let's say he bought this, I don't know. If he had worn it, for example, then khums would not be wajib. But if he didn't wear it, I don't know, did he wear, did he not wear? Then, again, khums is wajib upon the heirs to pay khums on it. And the last one is that if the deceased left behind wealth and we doubt whether the deceased was someone who used to pay khums or not, it is not obligatory upon the heirs to pay khums from that wealth. So remember I said at the start, all this applies to somebody who, when he was alive, he used to pay khums. So then if he was alive and used to pay khums, now that he's passed away, the heirs will remove the relevant khums. Now the question, I doubt that this person when he was alive, I don't know, did he ever pay khums? Was he somebody who used to pay khums? I don't know. Okay, in that case, then it's not wajib upon you to pay khums from that wealth. The point is that if you're paying khums, at least tell somebody in your family, like, look, this is my status, yeah? This money I've paid, this is my stuff. Keep somebody in the loop so that when you die, these doubts don't come up. But in case these doubts do come up, then these are the simple principles. Now, moving to the things that is the most relevant for all of us over here, is we said, okay, you received money, you're allowed to use it for your personal expenses. Now, there are different types of expenses that we can conceive of, and each of them have a different ruling. So, the first thing is consumable items whose substance is depleted through use. Meaning these are things that when I spend money on them, it can only be said that I am using this item if that item is now completely gone. So say for example, okay, food items. Okay, let's say I bought a banana, for example. When can I say that I've spent my money on this expense? When the banana is eaten, right? These are things that to use them, meaning they go away. So food items, cosmetics, perfumes, phone credit, printer paper, petroleum, gas, oud, charcoal, ink, similar items. These are things that when do you say you've used them? It's like when they are completely gone. It's not like, for example, a laptop that, okay, when I use it, the laptop still remains, right? So the first thing are those kind of things that when you use them, they actually go away. So they get destroyed, they're finished. So regarding this type of expense, where the item is fully consumed and its substance disappears through spending and usage, when it is completely used up, it is considered an expense that is exempt from khums. So if I spent money, for example, let's say I bought some bananas, for example, okay? I kept it at home. Now I can't say that, okay, I have spent money on my expense. No, it will only be counted once that banana is eaten. So on my khums date, for example, if the banana is still there, I won't say that, okay, I've spent my money on an expense. Now, the question that everyone asks is that, okay, so on my khums date, I have all these things in my house. For example, I have half a kilo of rice, flour, sugar. These are things that are remaining, right? I've not used them. So now, how do I pay khums on this? So people find this difficult, but there is a change in ruling, so which will make it slightly easier. So the old ruling of Atlas Sistani and what all the other Maraji would say is that, look, if on your khums date, these items have some monetary value. So you have a half kilo of rice, you have sugar, flour, all these things. Meaning their quantity is such that if you want, you could literally go to the market and somebody would buy it. It's not so little. There's a good quantity left that has monetary value. The previous ruling was that, okay, you take this to the market, you say, okay, I have, for example, a half kilo of rice. How much is a half kilo of rice? Whatever the market value is, half kilo of rice. You say, okay, so you have that much amount, you have to pay khums on. This was the old ruling, and most of the Marajis say this as well. That, okay, the only condition is like, look, this thing that's remaining, does it have monetary value or no? Food items, perfumes, you name it. All these things that when you use them, these things disappear. So the question is, okay, these things that are left over, do I have to pay khums on it or no? The old ruling was that, okay, just see, does it have value or no? If it's so little that you're like, okay, if I take this to the market, no one's going to buy. Like this much sugar is left, or my, for example, perfume bottle, this much is left, no one's going to buy this. So, okay, fine, no khums. This was the old ruling. Now, the new ruling, which makes it easier, so there's a lot of like debate about this like ruling. It's there in Tawzi'ul Masail Jami. You can see it's very clear in the Farsi. I even like I went to some of the wakils of Atlas Sistani, said like, is this true? I went to Sayyid Murtada Mohri, Muhammad Taqi Shahidi, and they said, yeah, okay, it's written there, it's true. The debate is basically like how this ruling was derived, but that's not our department. So the ruling is there, and the new ruling is as follows, is that khums is only wajib on these leftovers if they fulfill two conditions. Number one, they have market value, which is the old ruling. And number two, they were not the smallest quantity available. Meaning what? So I wanted to buy rice for home. if I go to the market and I want to buy rice, what is the smallest packet of rice available? Say hypothetically, 1 kg is the smallest. You can't buy less than 1 kg. So Atlas Thani is saying basically, this rice that's left over in your house, if it has value, and two, when you went to buy the rice, this was not the smallest packet available. For example, there was 1 kilo available, you went and you picked the 5 kilo bag. Says, okay, if that was the case, that you could have picked a smaller one, but no, you picked a bigger one, and now you take that bigger one, and there's something left over, and it has value, then you pay khums on it. But if you picked the smallest one, it was not possible for you to buy anything smaller than this, then even if the remaining has some value, saying there's no khums on it. So, for example, okay, let's say I want to buy a perfume, and the same applies to gifts as well, yeah? Same principle. So I went to buy a perfume, and there's like 3 sizes. There's, let's say, I don't know, 100 ml, 200 ml, 500 ml. And I went and I bought the smallest perfume, 100 ml. I can't buy anything smaller than this. This was the smallest bottle available. If I buy the smallest one, now I used it, let's say, once or twice even. Now, obviously, there's still going to be a lot of liquid left. So based on the old ruling, you'll say, yeah, it has market value. Khums is wajib. No, the new ruling says, because you bought the smallest one, you couldn't have bought anything smaller than this, then there is no khums on this. So this kind of makes it easier for some of the household items. Like, for example, okay, I don't know, I wanted to buy like shan masala. Okay, I bought the smallest box available. I used half. There's half remaining. Based on the old ruling, you'll say, okay, if a half packet of shan masala has value, you pay khums on it. Based on the new ruling, no. It doesn't matter whether it has value or not. Because this was the smallest box available, you could not buy anything smaller than this. So then there is no khums on it. And so it applies to all these things that are left over in our houses. Food items, perfumes, cosmetics. If you bought a bigger one, and you could have bought a smaller one, and this bigger one now has value, then you pay khums on the remaining value. The second thing is items whose substance is not depleted by usage. So cars, furniture, books, decorative artifacts, wall decorations, computers, clothing, utensils, and phones. So these are things that, okay, if I, for example, I bought a laptop, it's not like if I use the laptop goes away, right? So these things, like when you use them, they still remain. It's not like food where you eat them and it goes away. So for these items are used like in a normal way. The usage of each item is determined according to its purpose. So usually, for example, okay, I bought a laptop, for example. If I went and I put my laptop in my room and my khums date comes, I have not used my laptop, so I have to pay khums on it. But if I used it for whatever the normal use of a laptop is, then no khums on the laptop. So things like clothes, for example, clothes are considered used when you wear them. So it's not like, okay, I just unpacked it and I put it in my cupboard. No, that's not the use of a cloth. A clothes is used when you wear them. So now if I went and I bought a new dress, for example, and I put it nicely in the hanger and I hung it and my khums date comes, technically I have not used that, so I'd have to pay khums on it. Furniture, same. It counts as used once it's placed in the seating area, even if no one sits on it. So the whole point of like getting an 8-seater, let's say, sofa is that, okay, I need to keep it ready at home for when people come. It's not like I have to go and sit on every sofa to say it's used. No. Placing it in that area that usually people sit, that's enough. As opposed to, for example, I'm putting it in the store and I'll install it later on. Decorative pieces, they are deemed used when displayed for ornamentation. I bought like a nice frame and I've just kept it in my suitcase and my khums date comes, you pay khums on it. But if, for example, it's for decoration, I went and I hung it on the wall, for example. Okay, that means it's being used. That's the use of it, to keep it for decoration. So for each thing, it's whatever the use of it is. If you use it even once, okay, then there's no khums on it. But if you don't use it, then khums is wajib on that item, the value of it on your khums date. The third type of expense are items that will be potentially needed in the future. So here, these items, their use is not actually like physically using them. These are things that people, they have to keep in their house for like emergency, for example. For example, keeping a spare car tire. I can't say, yes, I bought a spare tire for my car, but oh, I didn't have a puncture, so I've not used it, so I pay khums on the spare car tire. No, these are things that their usage is defined by just keeping them. Like if you look at society, they say, okay, to use a spare car tire, like one of the uses is just to keep them on its own. So things like fire extinguisher, first aid, pharmacy supplies, plumbing tools, these are things that you have to keep at home, and society says that part of their usage is you just have to keep them. These are stuff that you need to keep them at home. For these things, khums is not wajib if procuring that item when actually needed would be excessively difficult. Like for example, okay, I say I'm not going to keep a spare tire right now. Once I get a tire puncture, then I'll go and buy a spare tire. No, obviously at that time, once you actually need it, it's going to be difficult for you to go and buy at that time. So for these things, there is no khums on it as long as you keep them at home. Similarly, for example, like let's say things like Panadol. I can't be like, okay, you know what? I don't need Panadol right now. When I get a headache, then I'll go to the pharmacy and I'll buy Panadol. So these are things that when you need them at that time, if you go and find them, either it's impossible or it's difficult, or not having them would be considered beneath one's dignity. Remember I said that Islam says you have to protect your status in society. So there are things that society expects you to keep at home. And if you don't keep them, they'll be like, what's wrong with you? For example, I don't keep Panadol at home. People will be like, okay, that's weird. These are things that you have to have at home, whether you use it or not. So to protect my dignity, I have to keep Panadol at home. So these things, even though I don't use them, just the fact that I have them is enough. Okay, I don't have to pay khums on that. In this then comes the discussion about items bought as sets. So things that I bought as sets, such as I bought a set of books or a set of utensils. For example, I bought a whole set of like 8 plates. Now, okay, I bought like these 8 plates, but I only used 2. So does that mean on my khums date, I have to pay on these 6 plates? So here, the ruling is that first of all, these sets, is it possible for you when you wanted to buy, could you have bought single? So let's say take the plates. If you wanted, could you have told the shopkeeper that, okay, I don't want 8, give me 4, for example. If those things, you could have bought 1, like single, but you chose to buy a set, and then you only used half the set, for example, then yes, okay, you pay khums on what you've not used. But if the things are sold as a set, like you can't go and buy individual. So for example, cutlery. Let's say, for example, I like this set very much, and I said, okay, can I just buy 5 spoons and 5 forks? It's like, no, if you want, you buy the whole set. So okay, I bought the whole set, I just used 2 or 3 of the things, fine, no khums on it, because these are not things that I could have bought single. But at the same time, let's say I could have bought single, but I chose to buy a set because the same principle as before. Because if I don't buy a set, or I don't buy these extra, society will be like, okay, what's wrong with you? So say, for example, utensils for guests. I can't be like, okay, at home, we are 4 people, so I'm going to buy 4 plates. Then the day that a guest comes, now I go to the shop and say, okay, now I'm buying 4 extra plates because I have 4 guests. No, for example, these are things that society expects that, okay, you keep a few extra plates at home for when guests come. So now, because these are those things that you need to keep extra to protect your status in society, otherwise people will say, what's wrong with you? So here, in those kind of things, even if you didn't use those extra ones and you could have bought single, then there is no khums on them. The last one for today is gradual provisioning. So actually this has more discussion, so I'm just touching it, but we'll discuss it in more detail in the next session. Basically this says that, remember I said that you can't say I'm not going to pay khums because I want this money for my future expenses. I'm saving up for university, wedding, etc., buying a house. So this is a case where there are 2 things where saving up is okay. You don't have to pay khums on what you saved up. One is wedding trousseau. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that properly. Basically in Urdu, Gujarati, we say jahez. Even in Farsi, they say jaheziya. Arabic also jaheziya. It's what, for example, parents in some cultures, when the daughter is getting married, they have to provide her with some like living appliances, oven, fridge, etc. So here there is a special ruling about jahez, which we'll discuss in the next session. And also, if it's saving up to buy a house, there's also a bit of more details in that. So inshallah, we'll discuss that in the next session. So now, I'll just very quickly, actually, because it's supposed to be time for questions, but very quickly, these are just applications of what I mentioned. If a lady tends to buy many dresses and jewelry sets, but uses them during the year, so for example, she has this thing that, okay, I have to buy so many dresses, she's using them. The thing was, If you're spending based on your social standing, then it's fine. But this is saying that, okay, if it's not in her social status to have so many dresses, then even if she uses them, she would have to pay khums on the extra. So basically, just imagine if you're a lady, this is your cupboard, you open, there's so many like kushali dresses. If, let's say, you call somebody from the Jamaat home and they would open your cupboard, if they'd be like, hey, you have so many dresses, that means, okay, it's not expected for you to have so many dresses. But there's a general amount that everyone's expected. Like people say, okay, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 dresses is normal. Okay, you bought those, you use them even once, okay, it's fine, no khums on it. But anything you buy that's not within your social status, whether it's dresses, jewelry, then even though you use them, you would have to pay khums on it. People who have a hobby of collecting valuable items like coins and stamps, again, I'm collecting these things, let's say coins, stamps, whatever, people have hobbies. These things have value, okay? I'm not using them. The whole point of hobby is I'm just collecting and keeping them. You pay khums on it. Because okay, you didn't use this old currencies or these stamps, for example, you just kept them. So again, you pay khums on these on your khums date based on whatever their value is. So khums on kafan, again, you've not used your kafan, so technically, like I bought a kafan, I've not used it, so on my khums date, I would have to pay khums on it, unless kafan in your society is such that if you don't keep a kafan with you, people will be like, hey, what's wrong with this person? You know, so to protect your society, you're keeping a kafan, then okay, then you don't have to pay khums on it. But most of the time, I don't think like in our society that's the case. Like if somebody passes away over here, if they come with a kafan or they don't come with a kafan, people don't be like, hey, this person doesn't have his own kafan. It's like, it's normal. Some people have, some people don't have. So in this case, khums on the kafan is also applicable. You pay khums on your kafan, on the khums date. If somebody buys an item, but it ends up being used by someone else. So I bought, for example, a phone or anything for the house, and my children used it. Do I have to pay khums on it? If that person is considered your dependent, and their usage, people say it's the same as you using it, then there is no khums on it. The last one for today is if somebody buys some clothes for his children that are too large, and so he stores them for future use. He went, it was a sale, okay? He bought so many clothes, and he came home, he's like, oh, my kids are still small, I'll keep it until they grow big. Okay, so that means you didn't use these clothes, so on your khums date, you pay khums on it. And so with that now, we can open the floor for questions.
When you say that you have to pay khums on your savings, meaning you're saving for future, that means that you have not used it in the current year.
Yeah.
That means it's applicable for khums.
Yeah.
What if your savings is a contribution of many things? So, for example, a gift, or you sold something, and you know, all of these things are contributing to a lump sum.
Yeah.
When you say use from your savings, what does that mean? Does it mean just spending X amount from that bank account, or is it a specific amount that is considered a use of your savings?
No, so whatever is left over, like, so for example, in my bank account, I'm saving in the sense that any tiny amount I get, whether it's a gift, whether I'm selling this, I keep putting it in that pot for a future, for example, whatever expense. It just means that, okay, whatever in money, the use of money is actually like spending it. So whatever I spend it on. So therefore, on my khums date, like whatever in that pot is remaining, I have to pay khums on it. Yeah, whatever is remaining. Yeah. Assuming like you have not put money, for example, over there that you'd already paid khums on before. So like I'm talking about fresh income. Because like I think I mentioned before that once you pay khums on something, you don't have to pay khums again. So even money, for example, okay, this saving pot of mine, okay, I paid khums on it. Okay, now I'm never going to pay khums on it again the next year. Yeah. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. So I have two questions. The first question is regarding perfumes.
Yeah.
If you have like the criteria that you used, that if you have a perfume that you could have bought as the smallest size, but you turns out you have like, but you're given as a gift.
Yeah.
But now you don't know the market value of that specific perfume.
Yeah.
So let's say if you have a perfume that is approximately 100 ml,
Okay.
and let's say the cost is maybe 5,000.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, you're remaining with 200 ml. I mean, sorry, 50 ml.
Yeah.
Then can you use the math and just calculate that bit that's remaining?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can do that, and usually that makes you end up paying actually even like more khums. So actually, if you want to do like ihtiyat, like that's the easiest way actually of doing all these calculations, rather than, for example, going to the market and saying, okay, how much would you buy this for? Yeah, you can do that. That's easier. Although technically you would pay a slightly more amount because that's not how the market works, right? It's not like, for example, if I bought a perfume for like 500 shillings and I use half, then they would say, okay, because you use half, exactly 250. Usually it's actually even lower than that. But yeah, you can do that. It's easier, although you'd pay a bit more extra, but that's fine, yeah.
And my second question was regarding usage. You know, there's a misconception about, like, if I get a T-shirt, let's say, as a gift, or if I bought it, can I just wear it and that's usage, like done?
So I should have mentioned that. So the criterion is that merely using something doesn't make it that okay, khums is not wajib upon it anymore. It's actually usage for your personal need. So just wearing it like that and saying, okay, I've worn it, that's it, khums, no. It was a need of yours. For example, you had to go somewhere and it's normal for you to wear those kinds of shirts. Or for example, people usually ask this question. They say like, okay, this lady, for example, one day before her khums date or 1 week before her khums date, she got a gift of a necklace, for example. Now, usually in her case, she only like wears these necklaces when it's like koshali in mosque or something. So she's like, okay, let me wait for 2 hours in mosque, at home in the kitchen and say, okay, I've used it. No, it's not merely usage. It's usage for an actual need that you have. Like for example, you're going out, you're going for a koshali or whatever, then you wait, okay, fine, now you've used it. But just at home, like, okay, to run away from khums and say, okay, I've worn it 2 hours, okay, no khums. No, that doesn't apply. So it's not just usage, it's usage for a personal need.
Assalamu alaikum. Two quick ones.
Yeah.
One is about, say, you have a commitment, but you can't pay before your khums date. Like, for example, you have to pay school fees, or you have to pay rent, but the landlord is not in town or something. And so can you keep that aside and not exclude it in your computation?
Yeah.
One. Two is if you're going to travel after your khums date, but you pay and purchase the ticket before, what happens in that scenario?
So the first question, I was going to discuss it at the end, like when you're paying khums. It's a very standard question that, okay, if I pay my khums now, then I have these future expenses coming up, I will not be able to pay for that, whatever, school, rent, whatever. So here, you can't just say, okay, now I'm not going to pay khums, I'll keep that money. No. What you do, your duty is, you contact the wakil and you tell him like, look, this is what's going to happen. Like this is, I have an upcoming rent, school fees, whatever. If I pay khums now, then I won't be able to do that. So usually what they do, it's called mudawara. So mudawara basically means that a transfer of khums from the physical item to literally mafid dhimma, so on your responsibility. So what happens is basically you'll go to him and you'll say, okay, that's your situation. So how much khums you have to pay? You'll say, for example, oh, like let's say $2,000, for example, I have to pay, but I have to pay rent. So he'll say, okay, pay the khums now. You pay him the khums, so your khums is done. Then what he'll do is, he'll say, okay, now I'm giving you this 2,000 as a loan to you. So now you take this 2,000 and now you owe him 2,000. So your khums is done. And now, gradually, whenever you are able to pay back that loan, then you pay back that loan. But your khums is done. So technically, you've paid your khums, but he's given you that money back as a loan. And so in the future, slowly, whenever you can, after you've paid your expenses, pay all installments, you pay it back to him. So that's the first question, that, okay, if I have an expense right now, okay, speak to a wakil, and he'll give you that money as a loan, but your khums is done. The second question was? Oh, yeah, okay. So there's a lot of like discussions, even like online, you might see different answers, that when I buy a flight ticket, like from a fiqh aspect, like what exactly am I buying? Like there's so much discussions, and that's why you might find like different answers to this. Some people will say like, no, you've not yet traveled, so you have to pay a khums on it. The answer that's there in the book Kitab al-Rafid, was officially the most detailed khums book of Atlas Thani. The way he analyzes the meaning of you paying for a plane ticket is that you're not exactly buying an item, you're just buying a service of them taking you from here to there. So in simple terms, there's no khums on it. But I'm telling you, if you go online, you ask around, you'll see like different answers. But this is like now in the official book, the question is there, and it says like he's looking at it as kind of like service, so he said no khums on it. Yes.
Okay, what if the money you use to buy your kafan is khums-free money?
Yeah, okay, then there's no khums on the kafan, yeah. So all these items, by the way, even like if you're buying like food or gifts, whatever, if the money you're using is khums-free money, either for example inheritance, mahar, or you already paid khums on it, then even if you don't use those items, you don't have to pay khums on it. Any other question? No? Yes. Yeah, whether you sell it, whether you give it as sadaqah, as soon as you say, okay, I don't really need this within the first year, then you have to pay khums on it. Yeah, okay, so you sell it, and the money you got, for example, okay, it'll be the value of the thing, so you take out the khums of the money. It's the same thing. Yeah. No, I said there's no khums on money you get in the bank as a bank transfer. If you go and deposit it yourself, then yes, you have to pay khums on that. But if somebody gives you a gift as a bank transfer, then over there is no khums until you actually withdraw it, and then from the time you withdraw until your khums stage you don't use it, or if you're not a working person, then 1 year. But if you go and deposit it yourself, no, then there is khums on that. Yeah.
So, for example, you mentioned something about paying khums in the future. Paying for some expense in the future. So doesn't like pensions feel like you're putting money aside from your thing, and you're saying in the future I'll...
Yeah, so I discussed this last week as well, that there's a whole discussion about what's the reality of pension and what kind of contract is it. Is it you putting money on the side? Is it a hiba mashruta, meaning conditional gift? Is it a loan? It's a very technical discussion. The conclusion is that no, you don't have to pay khums on that. So
You don't have to pay
no, you don't have to pay khums on that. Until when you finally get the payout at the end, even that, if it's a bank transfer, then no. Until you withdraw it, then 1 year from that, or until your khums date, that's when you pay khums.
Okay, and the other question was the one for gift. It's come to your bank account. Is it the same as last week, something about the intention? Or how do you like, your bank account is mixed with various different things.
So you're saying basically like when you withdraw, you're saying, okay, which money is this? Yes. So like I said last time, one is okay, your intention that okay, am I removing, for example, my salary or that gift money? If you didn't have an intention, you just removed like that, then based on the proportion that you had in the account, and if you didn't even know the proportions and they're all mixed up and confused, then you speak to a wakil.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question is that what you said we'll discuss next week, right? The one of saving up for something that's expensive. We haven't discussed that.
Yeah, but there's only two things. There's only jahiz and for a house. And even that, I'll mention next time, it's not even saving money. It's like a house. It's not like I'm saving money for a house. That for sure. Money, if you save for anything, you have to pay khums on it. That house as well, it's going to be like, for example, okay, I buy a land, then I buy cement, then I buy bricks, actually buying items. And even the jahiz as well, the first thing will be like, okay, money doesn't count. It's not like I'm saving money for the jahiz. No, you buy items in installments, there's an exception there. But money, for anything you're saving in the future, no, you have to pay khums.
So, thank you.
No worries.
Regarding one of the criteria in the personal expenses, you mentioned that if you get something that you thought would be a need, but then within that year you get to know that it's not a need, you pay khums on that.
Yeah.
But if you are given something that you didn't take as a need,
like you got a gift.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But during the year you're like, okay, I think I can give it away or I won't wear it.
Yeah.
Then what happens then?
Give it away or wear it.
No, give it away or sell it, sorry.
Or sell it.
Yeah. Okay, but selling it, I get it. You'll have to pay khums on the money that you receive.
Yeah.
Let's say you give it away.
Yeah, same principle applies. So one of the things I was going to mention after this actually was just an example of that. It's, say for example, parents buy clothing for their children. Now, when they're small, they grow very quickly out of it. So literally, this actually applies to that. So, if, for example, is a 2-year-old boy. Okay, the parents bought, for example, whatever shirt, trouser, whatever. Within 6 months, he's grown out of it, and so he doesn't need these clothes anymore. So this would also apply over there. That based on ihtiyati wajib, you would have to pay khums on this. But like I said, it's ihtiyat wajib. So there are other maraji, they say no, use it once, it's finished. Okay, then you don't have to pay khums on it again. So if somebody like wants to do ruju, like Atla Wahid Khurasani says, for example, same like Atla Khui, you use it once, you don't have to pay khums on it ever again. If somebody wants to like do this ruju, but the actual ihtiyat is that, okay, even if it's a child, okay, it's within the first year, these clothes are small for him, he's like, okay, we don't need these clothes anymore, so technically, then you'd have to pay khums on those clothes as well. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. If someone invests in something like stocks or some financial instruments, and over a period of time it processes a gain,
yeah,
and you purchase that item with the khums, like the money you already paid for the khums, now it's appreciated value,
yeah,
do you have to pay khums on that?
So that was the topic of last week. Last week was all about appreciation. Generally speaking, that if your intention in the shares was that I'm buying these shares so that I sell it at a higher price, then you pay khums on appreciation. But if your intention was, no, I want dividends, my focus is on the dividends, or I just want to park my money on the side, protect my money, then there is no khums on the appreciation.
It's about intention.
Yes, yes. So I think you should like listen to last week as well. I went through this in detail about appreciation.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Yes.
So another type of savings is fixed deposit,
Yeah.
which you don't touch, and then it kind of appreciates and increases and
Yeah.
gains value. What amount is what you pay tax khums on? Is it the total amount after it gains the interest, or just the
So whatever you can access on your khums date is what you have to pay on. If you can access it, like for example, okay, either like you tell them, okay, give me, and then they'll break it or whatever. If you can access it, then you have to pay on that amount that's accessible immediately. If you can't access it, then again, that same amount, you note it down, and the day that you can access it, okay, I had to pay that day, I couldn't access it, I pay on it immediately. So basically on your khums date, whatever is like accumulated for the interest and whatever is accumulated, yeah. The total, yeah, the total. Assuming the money that you put in was not like khums free money. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
What does it mean, like immediately? Like,
Means you don't wait until your khums date.
okay, it's not like you need to rush at that moment to the.
No, I just mean that, okay, you can't say I'm keeping this money until my khums date and then I'll pay that. No, immediately means like, okay, it's
Okay.
wajib upon you now. So ASAP. It's,
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's okay. Sasa.
Yeah. that's it. Okay. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
السلام عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا مولاتي يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا محمد الباقر. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا جعفر الصادق. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا موسى الكاظم. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا علي الرضا. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا محمد الجواد. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا علي الحادي. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا حسن العسكري. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.